and welcome to One on One. My name is Bridget Otu. Thank you very much for joining us on One on One. The 24-hour economy still remains one of the topical subjects in this country. In this election year, the former President John Dramani Mahama says he will push for a 24-hour economy. And we are engaging experts on how feasible this is, or which areas can we efficiently do a 24-hour economy. Also, we are in an election year. We know that in an election year, government tend to spend a whole lot more than they should. But Ghana is in a crisis. Do we have the luxury to be reckless in an election year? And what would be the impact of that? When we come back, I'll introduce my guest who has expertise in this area of economy and finance to tell us what Ghana can do, one, to ensure that we have an effective 24-hour economy and also not be vulnerable to election year shocks or election year expenditure. We'll be right back. My guest is an international financial analyst. He has expertise in, just looking and assessing global economies, and has worked with multinational organizations in this area. Solomon Badu is my guest. Thank you very much for coming on One on One.
Well, thank you so much, Bridget, for having me. It's a pleasure to come back here.
I know, and since we're having you here for the first time this year, I think it's only right that I wish you the very best of 2024. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Same to you as well.
Right.
And to you in the studio as well.
Right. And I know, being away and looking at how the campaigning is going and what the promises are, one that has obviously caught the attention of the entire public is the 24-hour economy that the former President John Dramani Mahama says if given another opportunity, he would push for that. I want to understand, is that possible? Is he talking beyond what we can shoulder?
Yes, the possibility, yes. So in my mind, when we talk about anything, yes, I could see the viability, the possibility in anything. It has to do with the strategy or how you approach it.
Okay.
So let's start with which places are running 24 economy, how is that working there? So for example, you pick a country like United States that has a 24-hour economy, 27% of the US population of the labor force works in that night kind of work. So the rest of the labor force works during the day. With the 27%, we are at the 26 trillion economy. So it's very effective there because we have the things that makes it works. If you pick up a country in South America, like Mexico, and these are the countries that have this model, it's working because they are setting infrastructure projects and also setting modernization in their civil service and other things that actually makes 24-hour work. So I'll talk about the major things that in a country like Ghana, what will enhance that type of economic activity. So let's start with electricity. So in the countries that this works, we have 24-hour power systems, high-level energies. They are looking into several forms of power generating to maintain industrial places and also all forms of business activity within those economy. In Ghana, that is going to be a challenge, but that is one of the things Ghana will have to look at. Do we have the electricity power structures to, power the factories, to power our cities? So actually, just yesterday I was driving from Ghana to Ivory Coast, and when I drove there and I look at in the middle of the night, the dark, starting from anywhere as soon as you pass. What they call that place, Kasua, and it's all dark, all the way. So you ask yourself, we don't have street lights, things that requires electricity to help enhance, driving is not there. Second, you come into infrastructure development. So infrastructure, let's take like roads. In the places like United States, we had a president called Eisenhower who created what we call the highway systems to link interstate during the Second World War. So it helps military equipment, all kinds of infrastructure activity to move quickly from one state to another. Do we have that in Ghana? We actually, I would say this for not just a television, but this is for something that serious politicians in Africa will have to consider. Mm-hmm. From Takoradi going into Alibo, the roads are terrible, very terrible. So all the trucks were driving like 15 miles per hour. How in a 24-hour economy are you going to transport food in a 15 miles per hour to Accra or to Tamale or to any other places? That is not going to generate the kind of revenue streams that we are looking. So you need to have a high-speed highways. Too many checkpoints. There should be a form of moving goods and services quickly, like we have in the United States. You can just move from Illinois to New York to Texas within a matter of hours. So that is what Ghana is going to need in terms of developing the road system to connect the cities and regions together so that we can have everything we need. Another thing, we have to look at modernization of the civil service. So I look at our civil service in Ghana. People go to work, it's going like, I'm just going to check in. And then you check in and you just go to your funeral and you're everywhere and do whatever. If you can do that in the day, imagine what will happen in the night when it's so much dark.
Oh my God, I guess it.
You get my point?
Yeah.
So people would just say, oh, like this is the time for me to just, go do my night thing. And I use that casually, but it has to be a seriousness of, modernizing a civil service where people can take accountability of what they are doing during the day, and that can translate. What is
wrong with the current civil service that we're running? What's wrong with it?
Because there's no check and balance there. It's people who are coming into workforce, into that kind of a work with a mindset of, it's not my own, I'm working for a government. So the next point I was going to talk about is called privatization. So because most of the people who are working in this place are appointed by government leaders.
Yes.
It has no sense of profitability, or even very little if it does. So you want to have serious business people running institutions or organizations. So if you want to modernize the civil service, for example, you want to bring people in a leadership who are driven by a business sense. They have the skill set of growing organizations and institutions. And those type of people are the ones that will help improve and enhance the civil service, division of an economy. So that is what needs to be done. And at this point, I don't think that has...
with the current civil service that we're running, for instance, people are able to do that because also the recruitment itself is politicized. And so people are just recruited and they really have no job to do.
Yes.
So it means if we're going to run a 24-hour economy, some people must lose their job for others to gain. Is that it?
Not necessarily you have to lose a job. It has to do with efficiency. So in the private sector, you are always thinking about, if I lose this business, I don't have anyone to help me. Whereas in the public sector, you're thinking about a bailout. Maybe a government can come and help my organization as a bailout. So we need to improve the systems of how we do work, or how, like, say, things are done. For example, like the civil service. Let's say if everything is computerized, we have a system to monitor who is here, who is not here. It may be there, but the enforcement of it and making it more efficient, when you come to work, what did you produce, like within 8 hours?
Okay.
So all that, if you are measured, you are also being evaluated to see how you're improving on the job, those type of things. That is what is going to improve the civil service sector, because now you are being efficient at what you do, because that's what private sector people do. If you hear, let's say, a company like Microsoft or Amazon, or Apple, now a $1 trillion company, because they are making things more efficient by the day to improve their revenue base, which also improve the valuation. So that is what a public sector like the civil service division needs to do. You bring in leaders who understand, continuous improvement. So you come in not just with a mindset of we do the things we've been doing 10 years from now,
right,
but you're coming in to improve the systems, making sure that the system is efficient. People who comes to work really do put in the work. So once we know that those work can be measured, and we know their productivity, it will translate into the value of money, and also into real money as well, which is what we want to see in the economy.
Okay, so you've talked about, for a 24-hour economy to be successful in Ghana, we need stable power supply. You cite very basic example as, we don't even have street lights beyond maybe Kasua on a highway like that. And also the road infrastructure you talk about. Is it just, I'll come to the power and how we can maybe make it effective. Do we need to add more? But I want to stay on road infrastructure and say, okay, is it road, or we need to add the railway system, or what you call the metro or the tube?
Well, thank you for asking. So one of the biggest problem Africa and Ghana has is to focus on the development of engineering. So tomorrow even I'm going to give a talk at Academic City University, a school that I really see as a championing engineering. So one of actually even the key to improving the 24-hour system is also developing entrepreneurs in our culture. But entrepreneurship, as people keep saying, cannot be done effectively without engineering. So there's a component of entrepreneurship that requires engineering. If you're going to go into manufacturing, you need certain types of electrical, manufacturing engineers, all systems of engineering, even IT engineering, to help grow the thing. So if a nation does not focus on engineering, you cannot develop. And the current system we have in Ghana, they are looking at other nations' engineering. If you look at Airport City, all the buildings there, including the major development, it was championed by some engineering from another country, because it's been politicized. You think if you give your own the opportunity to do it, then you will not have the opportunity to take what you want to take out of. But what that does to engineering in a developing country is that it demoralizes the people for them to lead a project. So if you come to a city where I live, in Chicago,
right,
I can name the names of engineers within the state of Illinois who have helped in building some of the skyscrapers in downtown Chicago. It's local. Obviously, it's also American. They are using their own to develop it. It boosts the community, or even in rural communities, whatever they are doing, the engineering within their community helps grow where they are. We don't have that in Africa. We have people who have come out of all our engineering universities. They have never led any major projects. So we need to improve engineering systems that translate into, let's say, for example, I talk about roads. It's civil engineering projects. Yeah. So what kind of civil engineers are Ghana producing to champion its own? Are you going to bring tier 3 Chinese to this country, as we understand, to come and do your development for you? So that needs to improve. Engineering is actually the life blood of any nation's development. So if our nation will see it that way, they will invest more in engineering, because even medicine, the reason why medicine is improving to where it is the technology piece of it, the engineering part of it champions that. Not just the medicine itself, but it's the development, which engineering leads that. Anything we do that has to do with human development, it has to have some engineering in it. Whether it's building, it's roads, it's infrastructure, it's anything. So this is the time Ghana needs to take advantage of engineering. Invest in the engineering universities in this country. Ashasi University, Academic, University of Ghana, Tech, put the money there. Let's raise this engineering community to be able to help improve our economic system for us. So.
But are you saying that we have the people and we have the schools to produce that kind of engineering, or we don't?
We have some, in my mind, because there are some that are using the old systems to keep producing those old type of engineers who are not really doing much. But also engineering, the reason I emphasize this, cannot just be in isolation. Engineering go with finance. So in any major development anywhere in the world, finance has to come in and support engineering, which means you have to invest in people, give them the opportunity to try things, not only with the mindset of if they lose, but what if they win? What if what they are working on becomes a tool that is going to help the rest of the world? So people take chances on engineers to make things happen. If you talk about, let's say, Bill Gates' revolution. Yeah. Somebody took a chance on him. He didn't even finish Harvard. So it has to be the same thing. The finance community in Africa, there's an opportunity for you to take a chance on the engineering community. Go to Ashasi University, academic city, talk to their leaders and who they are producing. Right now, I even know a company here with garbage recycling. They can't find the people, all the garbage is out. Where are we sending that? It's an engineering problem. You can't bring, I know a company in my area called Waste Management in the US, huge. But you can't bring waste management to come and do that. You need to produce Ghanaian engineers who will champion this work. I know we have bright people in our schools, in our universities, they can do it. They need finance to support it. So the banking institution, the private equity, the venture capitalists look at this group. They are the ones that will bring the revolution to improving the 24-hour economy.
Okay, then electricity. One of the things I've heard the former president say is that they would give certain incentives. An example would be that if you are working, say, beyond the standard, so let's say most companies end at 5 p.m. So if you're a company in manufacturing that is going beyond that, they will give you lower tariffs so that you are able to produce more. Do those work? Is it effective? How else can that be improved? Just, I need you to speak more of that.
So reducing tariffs on electricity, it's good. But that is not going to be the main reason why the company is going to do well. It's going to do well based on the efficiency of the people you have. So management will have to create strategies and incentives and things that will boost productivity. So if that is not happening and it's just one side of it. So you have to look at the collective. Everything the company is doing, is it helping to grow the organization? So I talked about engineering earlier. Manufacturing, are you having engineers who know what they are doing? Do you have, salespeople that knows to sell whatever that comes out of that engineering? Do you have the marketing people? Do you have, the finance people who are doing proper allocation of resources to make sure that the company, so a lot of component comes in. If a company is doing those things, then actually reducing tariffs would be good for them. But if they are not and they are losing on the other side, you could still have the tariffs and still, go bankrupt. That's our organization.
Okay, so there are opportunities in this 24-hour economy, but you're saying that we need the right strategy to be able to do that. You've talked about infrastructure, road. You've talked about power being like an important element or key component of making this 24-hour economy work. What else do we need to do to make sure 24-hour economy work, and which areas will see opportunities in this 24-hour economy? or which sectors will see opportunities in this 24-hour economy?
Well, thank you for asking that question. So we've talked first primarily about electricity. We talk about the modernization of the civil service. We've talked about infrastructure. And then we also need the human capital development. So you need to develop a workforce across this country that fundamentally understand the importance of work, the dignity of work. And once you have that in your system, people would not just come in and say, oh, I'm just working at night or whatever time it is and show up, but you are putting in the work that it takes to produce. So the human capital efficiencies need to be embedded in even our training and development. So that is another component. The next one is also on microeconomic stability, which is what a lot of economists focus on. But in terms of running a 24-hour economy, you need to go beyond that. You need to also look at the economic policies of the country and how that feeds into that. So, for example, if a nation has a policy that does not help, let's say, in export, how are we going to grow if we don't have, we're producing so many products in Ghana, but it's sitting on the shelves, it's not moving. So you need to have a policy that will enhance export. So let's say Ghana's relationships with, recently I heard that even some Ghanaians are taking advantage of the AGOA policy, which has been there many, many years ago. Something like that, it should be open to public knowledge. A lot of people can understand how that works, so you can take advantage of that. In terms of export, so this goods are moving and bringing in cash flow to Ghana. So economic micro-stability is one side, but you need the other side of economic policy that favors exportation, that favors manufacturing, that favors the industries, and then that will complement the microeconomic stability.
So the industries that should be excited about 24-hour economy, in a nutshell, will be manufacturing?
Manufacturing industry should be. So for the service sector, it produces something, but it works more efficiently during the day. So in the night, you can also have, let's say, some night businesses, but mostly the manufacturing sector becomes more where people can go and, and put in, 8 hours into a work week at night, which will improve the system. So I would say manufacturing would do. Also IT and technology. I work even from home, and there are certain times I do things at my own pace. So I will work on something like 2 a.m. It's not even, required, but I will do that hour to make up for something that I can do during the day. So that will be a big part of improving the sector. Okay.
And I mean, no, it's one that when it came out, I know the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, who is vice president, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, says that we already have 24-hour economy. He even gave the example of chop bars work 24 hours economy. I hope you know what chop bars.
Yes.
Restaurant. Okay. So chop bars even work 24 hours. Electricity work 24 hours. Is he justified? Is he belaboring the point when he says chop bars work 24 hours, or is he shutting down the whole opportunity that exists in the 24-hour economy?
Well, I don't know if he wants to shut it off, but I also don't think a chop bar, making fufu, those type of things at night, it's not things that people eat at night. So those type of services is not what is going to improve this economy. The sectors that are going to improve the economy is what I mentioned. Also, let's even talk a little bit about healthcare sector.
Healthcare.
You need to improve. This is why I talked about engineering. So you take hospitals and healthcare institutions that don't have the right equipment, they don't have things they need to do even during the day work. When you bring the night hours, it's going even to be worse. So we need to improve that system. That will translate into the 24-hour work week. So places like that is where you have the most impact, not in a chop bar, because in the chop bars you're making fufu and this thing. People would not be eating that at night. Maybe they might eat a little rice or latte at night, but the bigger areas of improving our economy will be in manufacturing and healthcare, even in education, I would say, because you could improve the educational system. People can do certain things online. So let's say if it's at night when they can't be there physically at the location, they can log in and just do what they have to do. So those, to me, are the areas that will improve the 24-hour economy.
Okay, so Ghana is in a crisis, and we have been for some time. We've had to do domestic debt exchange program where your investment goes down. You just reduce, get your money, or wait 5 years, 10 years before. So the question I want you to think about while we go on a break is: do you need money? Does Ghana need money to be able to implement a 24-hour economy? We'll be right back. Right, so welcome back to One on One. My guest is Solomon Badu, and we're talking about the 24-hour economy, what opportunities exist. We're yet to talk about, he's mentioned some of the threats that could hinder the 24-hour economy, but also, does Ghana need money when we are in a crisis? Where will the money come from, especially when we are also on an IMF program with such tough conditionalities? Before the break, I asked you, does Ghana need money to implement a 24-hour economy?
Yes, in some sense, you're going to need money. But people also in Ghana really needs to look at work from a private sector perspective, because the whole idea of entrepreneurship and people starting businesses is to improve, our work system. It's also to bring, more jobs into the system. So that is what we would need the most. But in terms of government, we would need the money because they will have to open more hours for setting civil service workers and different things to work as nights to help with registration of businesses and supporting of taxes systems. So those are the things that will compel the government to have a little more than what we have currently, in order for the 24-hour economy to work. So that would be my short answer. The long answer would be improving the entire system. So I talked earlier. So if you improve those things, it actually brings money into the government. Like
electricity?
So you improve electricity, you improve the roads, you improve engineering. All of that will bring money into this country, and then you can use that to help in the areas of development that has never been done. One thing I want to mention about the 24-hour economy, currently we have very few regions in Ghana that are developed. So as I was even driving to Ivory Coast yesterday, I was looking at so vast places in the Western region that is not developed. So I jokingly was telling my friend, I saw a bunch of people coming from the farm, and I said, these people don't even have any problem about, and it's a good thing for them because they may not think about the stock market, how it's doing. Like the people like us in the West, where we always, I said, they just came up from the farm, they're gonna go to bed, they sleep so well. We have people in the U.S. and other parts of the world are thinking, what is the S&P gonna do? What is the Dow gonna do? And all of this stuff we have. But they still need some type of development. If we want to provide 24-hour economy in those regions, they cannot continue to be, subservient to Accra, Kumasi, and Takoradi.
Right.
They need also to be developed so that people in those areas can participate in the 24 hours, which will generate more revenue for our government.
Okay. But where is the money going to come from? Because we're in a crisis, one. Two, we're on an IMF program, a $3 billion IMF program. We received, I believe, 2 tranches. First was 600 and another. So where is the money going to come from?
That's the things I mentioned earlier. It has to come from those.
So it should come from within.
Yes. I mean, so Africa and Ghana, we do have a lot of things. So it has to do in our strategy. If we have effective strategy in engaging private sector activities and even our public sector activities, like I mentioned earlier, we can generate money from there rather than always looking at generating money from an external source. In my mind, it's getting old. The rest of the world that are developing, those people are looking for avenues to stop going that route, building the things within the human capital, the institutions that exist, reinforcement of the laws, on the books, make sure that all that is done properly. Then we will be able to get there. I'll even give you an example of, I was going to Ivory Coast, a lot of police checkpoints, a lot of people asking for money and bribes. This is a problem, and that it should even be a national crisis for people in the uniform doing what they are doing there. But how is that helping? They're taking the money, putting that in their pockets. That is not helping the economy, it's helping their pocket. So you need an efficient services that will check all of this. That way, that money comes into the government. They're doing the same at the border patrols and border customs places as well. We all know that. So those inefficiencies, if you look at it more critically, that can help generate some of the money that we need rather than going to, an external source. So.
Okay, but here is the case that currently, I'm just going to use the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, is not a company that is generating any profits at a loss. So if I'm looking at that, then it looks dire to me that we will not be able, we may run a 24-hour economy with the kind of electricity company of Ghana that we have, electricity that we have, but then we will rather be driving ECG into further debts.
Oh, yes. I mean, also, like I said, it has to do with our policy and also our strategy that governs the ICG. So if we want to make something profitable, you bring in a management system not appointed by government, by people with business, understanding, and also how to leverage situations. So those qualities is what you bring into leadership, because John Maxwell said the rise and fall is on leadership. So if you believe that leadership is the problem, like what happens in soccer, they go and they lose, the coach is fired. They don't, all the time, right?
Yes, all the time.
So why don't we do the same?
We've done one with our coach, Chris Houghton,
Yeah. So why don't we do the same with our institutions? You have a leader who doesn't perform. If you can be quick to fire a soccer coach, you should be quick in firing a CEO of a major organization like IC Electricity Company. So that is my take. If we want to improve the electricity corporation in this country, we need to bring a management system that is robust. They understand profitability. They also understand strategy on how to distribute and when to collect, when not to collect.
Okay.
Also, what incentives we need to give to people and so forth. So it's there.
I know earlier when you were talking about the 24-hour economy and even the challenges, which also is the threats, you already answered that. But I want to ask specifically, saying that what do you see as the biggest threat to implementing a 24-hour economy in Ghana here?
I would say the biggest threat will be the lack of engineering. This is a passion. I work in this field. I understand it well enough. I know And any major development anywhere in the world, you pick up, for example, China. They put together a 40-year plan, the development of China. They started sending their people to the West to go to schools in U.S., U.K., many parts of European countries. They focus on the STEM education. You never go to places when you see this type of people focusing on other fields like, cleaning and menial works like we from Africa do. So there's high level skill workers within them, and mostly in this fields of engineering. So these are the same people that they have helped China to develop. You pick even India today. There's no family in India that does not have one engineer. At least you pick up an Indian family, there's one engineer, and you're going to see more.
Wow.
They come to, and they are following the path because they know that the future of the world is going to be in the technological field. The United States invests trillions into engineering to boost the type of people we want to see lead the world. So you can see that in how we approach technology, how we approach even with AI, and you look at all these things that have come. The people who champion these things believes in engineering. So they are the ones that are producing this type of people. They are the ones, the economies are growing. So I see that as a problem here. If we invest more in that, then we are going to be able to meet the 24-hour, because there's no way you can sustain our development the way we are without engineering.
But if I'm going back to the Chinese example you gave, Ghana also I'm using this word deliberately, like Ghana have had a 40-year plan, but none of which has been respected by any political party that wins power. So how do we get there when we are not even following the 40-year plan that the country has developed?
So yes, so that is a good question. So I believe that we need to have people who believes in following the national agenda. So whether you have Party A or Party B or Party C, you come in, you follow the national agenda. Like China, it's a one-party system there. Nobody comes in with a different idea.
Right.
So they come in, they want China to rival and be the superpower. They're going to do whatever. Nobody comes in and say, oh, let's take a different route. Even in a democracy like the United States, there are certain commonalities that runs across the parties. They agree together about our military. We have to be strong enough to withstand whoever is trying to, take us out. So they agree on the major things to make certain things happen. Even when they debate on certain things, that is, you don't see like they agree, but inside there's an agreement there. So Ghana, we have a 40-year plan, but it's not followed the way, like you're saying.
Yes.
So because of that, every party comes, they take a different direction. This party comes and take a different direction. There's no way we can get there. So unless the two-party system, three-party systems we have agree that we can do our things on the side, but when it comes to the main things, we will do those things. And then I believe in 40, and like I said, engineering has to be a key part of that.
Yeah.
If we are bringing other engineers from other countries to help build our infrastructure, how does that help the engineer that comes from KNUST or University of Ghana? They always will
shutting them down.
We shut them down.
Yeah.
They just have engineering on paper as a certificate, but they have never built anything meaningful in our world to give them. We don't do that to lawyers. We don't do that to even doctors, but we do that to engineers. We put them on the projects that they are not leading. They will be way in the down. And you have the
they
foreigner.
don't even act as engineers.
Yes.
They don't even act like as engineers. They're giving some menial role, literally not putting anything they've learned in school to use.
Yes.
That's terrible.
So that's the bigger problem we have. And unless we fix that, I don't believe the 24-hour economy will work here, because anything you do without the support of engineering is going to go down. And that's one of the problems we have. We have people making highways that shouldn't be there because they don't have the know-how. We are building things that breaks down within a matter of time. So once you have respect for the engineering community, they can support the rest of the economy, whether it's medicine, whether it is whatever field in construction, manufacturing, which we need so desperately for economic growth, that can be supported there.
Okay. So if you were to be approached by, say, the former president or his team and say, look, we think that you have a brilliant idea, come and consult for us because we must get our engineers on board for this to work. Is this something that you would consider?
I don't know about that, but I will help. I mean, I'll do anything to help this country in terms of strategy, because I think we have brilliant people. I'll tell you one thing about Ghana. Same even in medical. Look at how they perform here. But when they travel to Europe, let's say London or to US, we see Ghanaian doctors perform so well. And you ask yourself, this same guy used to be here. Why is he performing here? Because the infrastructure and the environment has been created for you to be able to, meet certain targets. So we have the people. We just need a different mindset in terms of the players who we are bringing on board to help, spear this thing that we call the 24 hours. It can be done. I would consider helping whoever they think that, I'm good enough for this.
All right. And election year, we're on a program, and you would think that government will be wise enough to spend within its budget. But I mean, even a non-expert can predict, based on history, that they will spend beyond that. We're in a crisis, we're in an IMF program. What are the vulnerabilities? What are the implications of overspending in an election year when you're already in a crisis?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. So sometimes this problem is it's a global problem, because you go to countries like United States during the election year, they spend billions of dollars, advertising for one candidate over the other. And you look at how much.
But that's not state resources they're using.
Yeah, they use private sometimes.
Yes, that's not state. But in this case, they use state resources.
So I'll come to that question.
Okay.
So for you to use a state resource, that probably is like crossing the line. There should be a policy that says that the private sector will have to support this if you decide not to use your own money.
Right.
So I would say that in terms of that, if the policy is there, then it will reduce the amount of money people are putting into politics in terms of using state revenue. So I would say that the current parliament and the leadership, that makes laws in this country should, come up with an idea or a policy that will stop anyone, it doesn't matter party A or party B, from using state resources to campaign for yourself. That way, I think
because the implications of that will be,
I mean, it will be bankruptcy, will be Ghana being insolvent, or I mean, we are at the point right now. Our economy is just even on a life support right now. So how can you go deeper into using state resources to campaign? I think we should respect the citizens enough, the electorate also enough in this country, to not go that route, because that is what is also destroying our economic base, because you bring in the money to do major developments and then you spend it in things that really doesn't help in improving the economic systems of our economy.
Wow. Before you go, can you imagine 50 minutes is up? Wow. The hour just flew by so quickly. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Use the hashtag #1on1 on all our social media platforms. On Twitter is at 1on1 Metro TV. And on Facebook, we're streaming on Metro TV page at Metro TV Ghana. Of course, if you're watching us at home, then you're watching us on Metro TV. You can share your thoughts with us on what we've discussed so far on the 24-hour economy, the threats, the opportunities, areas that stand to benefit, and sectors, and also the skill sets that would be needed. And I think that on top right now is engineering. Like you said, without engineering, this might not work. And also the vulnerabilities of overspending in an election year. An economy like ours that is in crisis, but that will not stop a politician from spending more than they have. And finally, before we go, because my producers are talking in my ear about when a government changes, what happens? Does the market react? What happens? Why does a change in government? How does a change in government affect the economy?
It has to do with what people believe about the government that is coming. So let's say
currently we're in a crisis. I mean, our currency is terrible. The cedi is terrible against the dollar. Unemployment is high. Yes. So that's what the feeling is now.
Yes. So definitely, if the feeling is that way, more likely the electorates are going to tilt towards where they feel there's more hope, because it's more about who will. Even in the U.S., it happens there where when people believe in someone that he will do the economy better than the other, it boosts the stock market.
Oh, right.
That could also be translated here, where people who believes that maybe the opposition party will do the economy, handle the economy better.
Right.
That is where people will kind of gravitate towards, because they see, okay, this particular party will help us to get to where we need to be. So,
all right, Mr. Solomon Badu, thank you very much for joining us here on One on One. We wish you the very best, and I know the politicians, policymakers, they're all watching and listening, taking notes on what they can probably get out of this. This is free counsel, this is free advice, but you can also contact him for advice to help your business or your company. Yes, there's those who have yes, let's know. That's it for us here at Metro TV. My name is Bridget. So my guest was an international financial expert, economist, and Mr. Solomon Badu. And I was happy to have him join us in the studio. See you again next week.